Welcome to the DAO Factor. I'm your host, Lisa Yu. I'm a crypto and tech investor, entrepreneur, and speaker. I got into crypto in 2017 when I took rental payments in Ethereum, and since then have invested and advised dozens of companies in tech and in Web3. For those of you who are new to DAOs, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization that's taking the world by storm. Today, I'm super excited to introduce to you our guest, Adam Place, founder of NUSIC, powering the evolution of music and turning digital rights into digital assets. They are putting music on the blockchain. NUSIC's mission is to unlock financial freedom for artists who share their creativity with the world. We believe that decentralized data and distribution is the biggest opportunity in our lifetime for musicians, artists, and creators. Adam, thank you for joining our podcast. First of all, what are you most passionate about and what motivates you to wake up every day?
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. And I'd say that I'm most passionate about this change, this redistribution of power and wealth that is taking place, that is empowering communities and moving the onus away from the few and onto the many. And I believe this is happening now with this new epoch of Web3.
That's incredible. And so you're applying this to obviously music and the project. What inspired you to start?
So I guess if you go all the way back to like my background as a musician and kind of growing up playing instruments and getting involved in different music projects, and then kind of really feeling like it was a time to develop a music career, but then kind of seeing a broken industry in front of me and with opportunities for actually kind of earning a living very limited as a musician and an artist. And it was really that has made me kind of not do music for 10 years or 12 years or however long it's been since I have been kind of focused on technology and technology businesses and music technology businesses. So that's, I think, the really the driving motivation that's been kind of underpinning everything I do with NUSIC. And I do see this as an opportunity to fix the music industry for good, if not just for now. Potentially kind of corrupt forces could kind of throw us off maybe for some period of time, but I'd like to think that we could fix it for at least a generation, right? So yeah,
well, you answered all my questions about what's your background, what's broken in the industry. Sounds like as a musician you've been front row, you've seen all the problems firsthand. How are you looking to solve it, and how is NUSIC specifically looking to solve it?
I think one of the big problems is the attribution issue. So there's just a lack of authoritative metadata that exists. So any music file can just be, you could copy and paste my music file. You could put your name on it and you could release it as your music. You could actually even upload it to Spotify. Well, upload it through a distributor to Spotify, and you could be releasing it. I'm not saying that you would, but you could. And that in itself doesn't really make any sense, because actually Spotify's got some of the most sophisticated algorithms in the world for recognizing music, and the recommendation system that they've developed. These are actually used by medical companies now, and really top end research employs the same recommender system that Spotify's built. If they were to direct efforts towards utilizing this kind of algorithm to recognize that, my track is my track and not your track, then we would not have this problem. But evidently it's not a problem that has been a priority for this organization to solve under the business model that they have. So the metadata itself and tying that to the file, we see that as an integral component of just ensuring that, when you get served a musical experience, that's all going to be related and connected back to the original creator.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important that the original creator gets credit for their work and it's traceable and trackable. And that's made possible by the blockchain.
And when you say the blockchain, I think that there's been this opportunity, since the emergence even of Bitcoin, for something like this to exist for music. But ultimately, like the kinds of different blockchains that we've seen springing up have generally just been orientated around, financial, the financial side and the transactions.
Right.
And we've seen some amazing innovation with that. And I think like DeFi is fantastic. Crypto is amazing. As an asset class, I think it's like this is part of the transition that we're seeing. But now with NUSIC, we're building a blockchain that's designed for music. So the actual system itself is designed around musical measures and beats, right? So and it's designed to be able to host the data that recognizes the key, so that ultimately there's an emerging data set that can be useful for these musical fingerprinting applications, in that allowing the music to be recognizable in different systems.
Yeah, I love what you talked about, the digital fingerprinting, proof of ownership and authenticity. That's something that in our current day and age, everyone feels like there's always a clone of something on the other side of the world. So this is so important, so key, to the future of music creation. So you were explaining kind of how it works. Does it mean that the notes and the beats and the metadata are stored on chain? Tell me more about how this digital fingerprinting works and how it ensures authenticity for the creator.
If you imagined like the music itself as an object, right, that can be visualized through spectrograms, and then as an algorithm, like we can map how these different peaks inside these spectrograms map over to other pieces of music as well. And that can allow us to kind of mix and match up different kinds of patterns inside the music data itself, right? So one of the things we're doing is we're not just focused on like the overall track. That's kind of been perfected, right? It's amazing what has been done with Shazam. And even now you can sing into your phone, right?
Yeah,
and Google
incredible.
will tell you what the song is. So
karaoke box in your pocket, right?
Right. Yeah. So we've got like an amazing, really advanced music information retrieval system now. The stuff that people were dreaming about only 10 or even 5 years ago. It's all here, and AI makes that possible. So what we're doing is we're breaking music down to its atomic level, right? So it's not even just the track as the whole, but it's the individual components. So it's the stems, including the multi-channel audio, so independently the vocals, instruments, the bass line and the drums, and then also into the individual components of the track. So like just a single drum loop has value as a piece of intellectual property, and it's important that we recognize and honor that in our system. Even a beat, right? A single drum beat has value as something that somebody has created. That gives us even more granular information about the characteristics of the track, and means that we can do even more advanced kind of mapping to recognize the music between when somebody else is trying to upload it to claim it's their own, or somebody just takes it and wants to use the track for their own purposes, right?
Yeah. You mentioned the drum beat and being able to track every beat, every note. Tell us about the inspiration behind NUSIC with the Amen break, which was a drum beat that decades ago. So tell us that story, because I know that you mentioned it a lot, and I want the audience to hear about it.
Yeah, sure. So the Amen break is a percussive drum pattern that you've probably heard before. It's been used, it's been kind of foundational to hip hop music and in also drum and bass music, right? Which is another really popular genre of electronic music. And it was recorded, and it's also been sampled even by in music like the Futurama soundtrack. It's been sampled by or reproduced by David Bowie, Led Zeppelin. It's a really popular drum beat that you've heard, right? So that's it. And that was actually originally recorded by a guy called Gregory Coleman in 1969 with a band. The track was called Amen Brother. And it went on to get picked up at the beginning of sampling culture and became popular in hip hop, was sampled by NWA. And after it was put onto a sampling album without attribution, right? So because it was a drum solo, it was a really nice, clean sample to use at that point. And then it's like, it's become almost like a catchy tune, right? It's actually one of the few, or one drum pattern that people recognize at the same level. It's almost like if you're hearing like a really catchy melody or something. So that's gone and been used in like thousands and thousands of different pieces of music. But the really sad thing is that the guy who originally produced this drum pattern, he died penniless on the streets of Atlanta.
Oh no.
Yeah. And he had no idea about the impact that this music had on the world and what his creation had done, and all of the different like amazing parties that people went to, and all of the different art that had been created, that had been inspired and utilized directly this beat and this sequence of drums. So that's just such a sad thing to have happened, right? That like, and it shows you that, you know, before we had digital digital data and music information retrieval, it was actually really difficult to pair up the original creator with this piece of sound, right? Which is this kind of ephemeral thing. Now what we see is there's actually an opportunity to pair that all up from the point of creation, right? So that's why, that's one of the things that has been very important for us, and it's a kind of key inspiration.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that story. It's like we don't need to repeat history again. We now have technology and solutions to solve the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all here, right? Like the technology is right in front of us. We've got blockchains, we've got music information retrieval. It all works. But I think the problem is that the siloed approach to data that Web 2 takes just means that it's difficult for light to be shone on this information. Actually, when I talk about what we do with music information retrieval, we're just designing some standards that can enable these kinds of algorithms to develop and this kind of enforcement to take place, so that creators end up getting paid properly, or at least getting paid for what they're not currently getting paid for, which is just kind of going missing.
Well, it sounds like you're an infrastructure play and you're creating technology to enable the creation, the securing, the releasing, and attributions. Tell us about some of the awards that you won recently. Things that you won Chainlink's hackathon twice in a row, and the Filecoin Wizard Award and the Polkadot hackathon. So congrats, first of all, on being universally recognized by multiple protocols for your achievements. But yeah, tell us about some of the awards and the wins and what you were recognized for.
I guess, like, you know, when I was trying to figure out how to break into this industry, it kind of became apparent that, and especially, you know, during kind of the latter years of COVID, and it became apparent that hackathons were the way, or a great way to meet a lot of people very quickly, and also meet other enthusiastic developers that wanted to change the world. So you know, in whatever it was, it was actually in the last winter, we entered the Chainlink hackathon, and largely with a team that we just met in Discord, and we built this NFT music bond project that went on to receive the grand prize in the hackathon, which was kind of, like an amazing validation. And obviously, you know, the team that wins together stays together. And so we've kind of, it was a really amazing kind of galvanizing moment, after that was going out into the industry with this offering, and did find some friction as far as it goes with people were seeing that, the NFT bond offering, this kind of passes the Howey test, right? It looks like a security. It's a yield bearing asset. It probably is a security, and it's difficult to dress it up as a utility. But what we were trying to do is offer up something similar to a Bowie bond, right? Which was a great thing that David Bowie launched a bond. He raised $55 million, and he used that to buy back his rights from his management team, right? So who owned 50% at the time. So finding all this friction in the marketplace, and some kind of VCs didn't want to get involved in something that looked like a security. I realized that we were going to have to just kind of go back to the drawing board a bit and maybe go a bit deeper and a bit bigger. So Chainlink came along with another hackathon, and this one was sponsored by Polkadot. So they raised up all of these interesting resources about Polkadot and understanding, how it actually works as a consensus mechanism for layer ones. So this gave us some of the resources and some of the kind of guidance to just get on with building like a layer one for music metadata. Wow. And along with that, we brought in another person I'd actually met before the Chainlink hackathon, who is a game designer and Unity developer. So she joined in with our team for this one as well, and to build out a kind of metaverse demo that leveraged the assets. And then we also built a new NFT standard that's designed to be, it can be under the right legal framework. It's compliant as a security. So we went on to win the Chainlink NFT and Gaming Prize, which is one of the major awards. The Filecoin, all of the music files are stored on IPFS. So we won the Filecoin Storage Wizard Award as well. And then we also won the Polkadot Parachains and Palettes Award, which was that's an amazing, actually in total, the value of the prizes were more the one that we won the grand prize for, just because as when you kind of toss up the actual financial, the cash reward, that has been, that's just been some really good validation from the industry. Obviously, we're all kind of, it's a decentralized world. There's lots of different kinds of organizations behind these protocols and projects that we know. And so, for some, but it's great that some of those individuals inside these decentralized organizations have made a decision, or partly decentralized organizations have made a decision that NUSIC is doing something good. And, it opens up a path for us to continue to build, utilizing some of these technologies and networks.
I love that. It sounds like you set out to create something, the industry has recognized your achievements, and that's inspiring you to continue moving forward and bringing more value to the industry.
Yeah, that's right. I think that it's kind of, I think that it is in this kind of remote first world. It's difficult to know where people are hanging out, right? And where is this stuff being built? And what we've found is our team is based all over the world now, from New Zealand to California. It's really it couldn't be a wider range. And we literally deal, I think it's four continents. So that's kind of been pretty gnarly to handle.
You just need to find a musician in Antarctica.
Right. Yes. Somebody actually asked me the other day, I went on the call and he said, "Where are you?" And somehow he heard that I'd said I'm in the Arctic, right? I can't remember what I actually said to make him think that, but I can understand that. That's cool. I mean, I could be in the Arctic, because it doesn't really matter. We've been able to pull this team together and we've been able to work together, and it's obviously sometimes it could be tiring, but it's fine. You could just take downtime in different kinds of parts of the day, and then ramp up in the evening or the morning, so to facilitate all of the international dialogue, right?
I love that. I mean, it's great to have a diverse, decentralized team. Obviously, I'm curious, what are some of the core values of NUSIC, and how does that align with Web3?
I think that, one way to describe like what we're working on is self-sovereign music. Like a right is something that's kind of inferred onto you by an outside authority. It's great, we've got rights, but an asset, that's something that you control and something that you own. And you don't need an authority to tell you that, or you shouldn't need an authority to tell you that. The idea of self-sovereign music is you've got control. You've got somebody that's using your music in a way you don't like. You should be able to control that. You should be able to like take it back. This is a massive problem. Donald Trump kept on using the Rolling Stones as in his rallies, and they couldn't stop him. There's obviously a sensitivity that musicians have around like the usage of their music in certain contexts.
Right.
When the world is running on music rails, that problem can be solved.
Yes. And that will be a bright future for creators to actually have full ownership and creative rights to their works of art.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let's talk about the rise of DAOs. So, there are now about 5,000 DAOs and over 1 million DAO members. We're still very much in the early stages. How are you looking to make DAOs more of a common thing? I know that NUSIC also has a DAO arm. So tell us all about that.
I think that, like we're just starting to really understand the capacity of DAOs as, a kind of a force for like social good and social change. And obviously there are some great examples already. I think from like the perspective, from NUSIC's perspective, to actually implement the NUSIC DAO, this is something that the way I see it is like almost like a kind of decentralized music regulator, right? And by that, I mean, who's going to take care of the authentication that needs to happen on our protocol, right? It's not, the worst thing to happen would be that you just have people like doing the same thing that they were doing before, or like people just uploading other people's stems. That's really like the opposite of what we want.
Yeah, that's the old model. That's the old model.
That's like the broken model. Yeah, and of course, like, I've been talking about how great music information retrieval is and like what it can do in recognition. There is a certain amount of automation that can happen, but we can't trust AI to just do the whole job for us. Mm-hmm. So the way I see NUSIC DAO ultimately is like a decentralized attestation network, right? Yeah. So the attesters are individuals or industry bodies that have some kind of credentials that mean that they have some authority to be able to authenticate, and then get proportionally remunerated for the work that is done. Obviously, the big problem would be if this kind of organization became centralized around like some specific component of the industry that ended up utilizing this for some kind of malicious purposes, or just trying to revert us back to business as usual. Yeah. And I think that's what decentralization solves, right? And transparency solves. And the kinds of tools that we're seeing for DAOs are going to enable it to be possible that we can have a truly decentralized organization that can also operate autonomously in the middle of humans that are actually, doing the jobs that can actually get them paid as well, and to make sure that the actual data flows that are being ingested by the layer one are like correct. I guess I realized that the NUSIC DAO is quite a big project in itself. Originally, I thought we could do the whole thing as a DAO, but practically speaking, like we need to be able to drive forwards the product development and the roadmap and all of that stuff. And a DAO is like, you have to build a whole infrastructure to hold everyone together, right? So
it's like a mini country. I mean, if it gets big enough, it's like a village.
Right. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the topic of DAOs, and I can't wait for NUSIC DAO to be a thing that could really bring in very like important components and players to ensure that music is like honored in the way that we want it to be.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like DAOs creates this like level of accountability, checks and balances to make sure that all the humans are in agreement and respecting each other. because you make those agreements at the beginning. And as you join a DAO, sounds like there's the core tenets, there's the values, and people are operating, across a shared set of values.
I am aware of some great work that is being done by some DAOs, and I really I intend to get more involved, especially stuff that synergizes with music and like pushing the industry forwards. And that I can see that there are some synergies that we've got with some other DAOs out there.
Yeah. No, I like comparing this to, decentralized ownership, right? It's all about transferring ownership from a single authority or a single label or manager, and the ownership is decentralized amongst the people. And it's kind of like as if Uber or Lyft drivers actually got shares of the company for contributing to the business rather than being contractors. It's like as if the musicians who write the songs actually get shares and create value, and can also bring other fans to also co-own bodies of work. Do you see that, as a benefit of running a DAO is just the more shared ownership and distribution and support, for the actual creator?
I think the transparency is the thing. Like if everything's on chain, I could even consider that in the future, like a DAO will be the back end of like a project management system. So like you can actually see the work that everybody's doing, and that's all kind of attributed into the project management system itself. In the future, I'm sure we'll have like some really like awesome tools for that don't just need to be about like the kind of financial incentives or like the pool of capital that has been created by the DAO. I think transparency and like, sunlight is the best cleanser, right? So
yes,
really, as we bring this data out into
bringing the data to light.
Exactly. Yeah. Then, it's not like, I think right now the record labels are, historically profitable. It's like they couldn't be more profitable. And the reason for that is that, when Spotify was coming up and they joined the board and they determined the licensing fees that were being paid, they were looking at a way to return the industry to growth. So that deal that's been done is very much part of a world that we're not in anymore. And so I think that even the individuals inside these organizations are aware that this kind of profitability is not sustainable. And I think that now looking at Web3, there's a recognition of there's an opportunity for way more revenue that comes in through numerous sources, and ultimately, we're growing the pie for everyone in the industry. And although like the labels may not be as hugely profitable as they are in the future as they are right now, they're going to be making more money in total. Yeah,
we looked at the data, right? The industry will grow to become $130 billion industry in like 2032. I mean, that's a huge amount of growth in the next 10 years.
Yeah, and in some ways it could, it could well exceed that if you look at what's going on with NFTs and, the kind of gamification around like microtransactions and all of that. The gaming industry has like really accelerated and overtaken the music industry completely. Like we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of value today versus like $24 billion for the music industry. But, like whatever it was, like in the last few decades, they were on par together, right? So that we need to learn from those models and understand how we can, give more value back to artists and creators.
Yeah. I know, like kind of take a page from the gaming industry. Through the microtransactions, the gaming industry has 10x'd in a very short period of time. Who's to say we can't do that for the music industry?
Right. There's only going to be like a small percentage of users that are spending like big money on, these kinds of things, but these kinds of, in-app purchases and the rest of it. But on the music context, that's about like fans, super fans that like really want to get connected with their favorite artists. Well, we're already starting to see these interesting models emerging out of these NFTs that are being released. And I think at the end of the day, like an NFT ends up being, it doesn't need to be this like kind of esoteric JPEG, and that's all it is. I think, you know, once these contracts are integrated into like the infrastructure of different kinds of the music products, it's going to become invisible, and really you're just buying like, you know, access and, you know, like regular connections with your favorite artists, and we won't think about them as NFTs in the same way. We'll just think about them as like, it's a way to prove that and it's a way to access these specific relationships and validate yourself amongst your peers as a super fan.
Yeah, that's super fun. I can't wait for that to roll out. So it sounds like NUSIC also helps musicians mint NFTs. Is that right?
Yeah, so with the, you know, the metadata itself and the distribution of the files, like that's all kind of taken care of, like between the NUSIC layer 1 and currently IPFS. But the asset layer is basically where like these tracks, this data, this music data in combination with the files are made into assets.
Ooh.
So that anyone can
so then the artist can own the actual asset and have self-sovereignty over it.
That's right. Yeah, that's like where, you know, if that's what the artist wants to do, then, you know, they can break up their track and they can offer up individual components of the track that can then go on to be used, you know, like they can offer up full commercial rights. So we've actually just released an activation with a meta artist called Yatta, who's a pixelated geisha, and she's actually come up with this track which is being offered up in its constituent components. So you can buy, like, for example, just the percussions from the chorus and other, you know, other parts. You could buy like the whole verse or the whole breakdown if you liked. But we've created a track explorer, so anyone can come in and mint a specific component of the track and then have full commercial rights to that.
That's incredible. I love that. This will be completely changing the music industry because you can buy and sell parts of your song and cross-pollinate and, you know, buy or sell the drum beat or the verses or the choruses, but you could get to still maintain rights of your song as an artist. And you can choose what rights you keep. You can choose what rights you share. You can choose, you know, fractionalized portions of your song so that you can invite fan base to co-own your song. I mean, I feel like all the possibility and combinations are endless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's very exciting to just be seeing this and to be at this in this paradigm where, you know, we're starting to learn more about like how TikTok pays for the tracks that get used in that, but that's currently a black box as well. And
it's probably so small that it's insignificant.
You know, it's been coming in like revenue from TikTok, you know, in the last, like, you know, 2 years, right? Like we're starting to see it trickling in. But, you know, what we have to do is we have to start using these rails that allow like real attribution and real ownership. And that's going to force the industry to adopt. Because at the end of the day, I think Gen Z are a very principled generation. They care a lot about big issues. Yes. And they'll stop using apps that don't actually compensate users properly. I do believe that passionately.
I agree. I mean, I see people ditching certain platforms because it's no longer serving them or it's becoming very extractive. And I'm really excited to see all these new decentralized applications spring up, these new layer ones, having transparency and clarity and ownership. It's like giving creators freedom and autonomy for the first time. I'm super excited to liberate creators and their creative works. What are the long-term goals of NUSIC and the DAO? And, you know, do you plan to create music, or you're acting more of as a supporting mechanism for artists?
You know, really, like the long-term goals are to for NUSIC to become the rails, the decentralized infrastructure that provides music to, you know, it's not just the listener, but to the, you know, to the whoever's going to interact with that that music, right? So it
Yeah.
includes music production, and other producers that, you know, want to use a part of a song to make a remix, or use a part of a song to make it into a different kind of song. For that to be helpful for like disputes, right? It should be possible to determine who, you know, when infringement has taken place or not. And then, so, you know, I recognize the NUSIC DAO as ultimately kind of contributing to a new way of understanding intellectual property that will ultimately shape the laws that we have, right? Like
Yeah.
most of the laws that exist have just been set up based on stuff that happened like years ago, right? So I
Mhm.
think that, you know, it would be great to see NUSIC DAO as like a lobbying force that can actually improve like the intellectual property infrastructure, so that like creators are properly paid. And, you know, but by starting with the tech and making sure that that is robust,
Yeah.
then we can kind of clean up the way that our like that component of politics works. And I think the good thing about music is it's such a universal thing, and everyone, I mean, not everyone loves music, but most people really love music and can see this problem. So I think that on a political level, it's like it's possibly easier to address than some of the bigger, thornier political issues that exist in the world today, that would also benefit from the power of blockchain.
Yeah.
As those of us that have looked into it know. Look at what happened with Napster. It just kind of, everybody loves music, so they just wanted to share, and they wanted to use this this piece of software. And it's kind of sad that actually it was actually kind of the canary in the coal mine for creators, like losing out on, and or the music industry really changing as a result of that, right? You know, as
Mhm.
consumers, we won with Napster, but what have we lost? You know, we've lost some revenue streams for creators, and obviously the music industry reacted badly. But you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Well, it sounds like you're creating a world where both can exist. The musician can have ownership rights and make money with their craft, but they can also now share with each other properly, transparently, in a really streamlined way. And you're creating the rails for that.
yeah. The music industry as it exists today is largely going to exist in the next 10 years or the next 20 years, but it'll be different, right? And
Mhm.
it's
It's like
not.
adopting to change.
Yeah, this technology is just giving us the you know, like, it's kind of democratizing what have been very closed systems, that, you know, we don't know really what's going on behind the closed door. I believe the beginning of a musical renaissance that will actually bring about the
Yeah.
transformation of culture. And I think that many of us that, like, you know, recognize the capacity of blockchain, like, you know, back in, you know, whenever, like in the last decade and a bit, you know, we still believe that there's that opportunity. And I think the NFTs have kind of brought some of the tech to the mainstream, but I believe it's going to be music that brings it to everyone, and everyone can see the value
Yes.
of what this technology could offer the world.
Well, because culture is so much shaped by music. So music is one of those things that crosses all borders. Like you'll see certain music genres cross overseas, you know, different countries, and it's such a unifying force. So I really think, you know, music and distribution could be the arm into getting Web3 out to people. Like people are going to start becoming more open to this notion of decentralized data, decentralized finance, decentralized content, right? And now we have digital assets, and it makes the distribution easier and more streamlined. And the best of all is it attributes rights and ownership to the rightful owner. And I think that is such an important cause. So yeah, thank you for building all of this and for, you know, contributing to the industry. I'm curious, you know, a couple questions just to get to know you more. What are your favorite musicians growing up, and who are your favorite musicians now?
Okay, yeah, cool. So I think, you know, I was very influenced by electronic artists like Aphex Twin and Square Pusher like really shaped my teenage years. Like the first CD I ever bought when I was 10, I think, was the Spice Girls.
Because you're
So
British.
that's where I started, and then I ended up with some of these electronic artists. When I was a student, I was fortunate enough to be able to go and study in Japan, and then I got into karaoke and actually got into Queen. Then, like, I didn't even know Queen before going to like a karaoke booth, and some of my friends that I was with, some of the other exchange students and some of the Japanese students that we'd met were like into Queen, and so I actually, that was the first time I'd learned really, and I got to know Queen, who I love, right? And especially in that kind of context. Now, my favorite band is probably the XX. I saw them live a couple of years ago, and it was just like Romy came out at the beginning, and I was like, what are they going to start? What are they going to open with? And they started playing Introduction, right? Which is like the song everyone knows. And it's like on all the commercials. And I was thinking, part of me thought like, oh no, they're starting with intro. That's so cheesy. But then within seconds, like there were just tears like flooding down my face, and it was just like this. I can't believe it. It was the best thing. And
you're here hearing it live. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. And even like at the end, like even Jamie XX was crying, it was like, it was just so like the mood in the room was just, it was unbelievable.
Well, the collective experience of listening to a unified sound, there's something definitely very emotional and impactful about that.
It's so important actually. And, it's sad that we don't get that opportunity, or, things have changed, and it's we've kind of gone into the metaverse, and that's actually a good thing in some ways. Like there's really real opportunities from that, and I think that and it is a good thing that we can live like kind of closer to nature actually now in this world, right? So but yeah, I think it is also like live music, and connecting with the artists is also, that's so important.
Oh, definitely. And it sounds like, for those who can't attend concerts, there's on their roadmap, you talk about music in the metaverse, where people can still listen and have experiences online.
As I mentioned in this last hackathon, we ended up building out a music festiverse. So this is actually a music festival, and we streamed some music from some of the biggest kind of NFT music hits, right? And then we also had we had an NFT, an interactive NFT that could be experienced. You could unlock some music from the artist I mentioned, who we've been collaborating with, Yatta. That was a cool project, and I think it's kind of opened up like really like I guess the future for NUSIC is understanding music as metaverse property, right? So like we could see the land sales that we see in the world, like there's arbitrary scarcity, and really land isn't such a good analogy for a metaverse, right? Just because it's fixed to our planet. We've only got a finite amount of land, but in a metaverse, it's all digitally expansive, right? You can expand forever. So thinking about music as a universe, and thinking about how we understand the finite amount of music that's being produced, but is always expanding every time somebody creates something new.
Yeah.
So
new generations will be replenishing the music ecosystem. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So if we could understand music as metaverse property, that's probably like a better analogy for the metaverse than land. And I think that's where we're going, and that's what we're looking to. How do we facilitate that as also a tangible experience that music intellectual property is intangible. If you visualize it, it becomes tangible. And then, if you have a smart contract connected to that, then you can make sure that the owner or the creator has, they can control that, and they can offer that up how they deem fit to an audience that wants to connect with that and enjoy the appreciation of this as an asset, right?
Yeah. Well, I can't wait for this Festiverse to be born, and maybe I'll end up DJing at one of these future events.
That would be great. I think it's interesting, but if you think about an analogy to, like, in my, say in my career, like when I've been like working as an agent or as a promoter, it's always like when the artists like come out and you fly, or somebody flies out, or when I've been on the other side actually as an artist, like when I've been flown out and then somebody comes and picks you up at the airport and then they'll like look after you, and there's a parallel universe of the metaverse and booking artists that could be like a really cool way to onboard artists into a musical metaverse, right?
Yes.
So if you see what I mean, like in that context where you've been like beamed away from your usual context and received, and then you're being looked after by the promoters, it's like you're a captive audience actually. So it's a good time to introduce people to like new things, and that's kind of what the metaverse is, right? Like it's a new thing, and there's an equivalent of that, which is like, hey, here's your avatar that you can use this, or you can collaborate with our team to make it even better. So yeah, of course, like you need to come and play in the metaverse, like when we do more activations like this.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's your advice to people who are just getting into Web3, the metaverse, deciding if they should start or join a DAO?
People like always rave about water and music, and I've been lucky to meet some of those guys, and I think so if you're looking to get in via the music route, then I think there's a lot of really good research around DAOs and everything like that, like knowing like how people relate to that, and having met some of those people and heard what they're talking about. And full disclosure, I haven't like deeply looked into this DAO myself, but it's one that like I definitely want to join, based on everything I hear, like their reputation also from the music industry itself. Their reputation is really amazing, right? Like there are people like performance rights organizations that are joining water and music to try and figure out how we can put the music industry on chain. I do see that as something that's some like great organization. And then I think that, I guess, like for crypto broadly, like definitely get hold of some and figure out what's going on and start using these protocols. Obviously, like there are issues around security, so learn about security. It's really important. There's still, because it's such a big opportunity, it's not that surprising that it's going to be full of scammers, and but that happened at the beginning of the internet as well, right? And look at where we are now. Like everyone's confident to everybody's confident to put their credit card details into a website. So it's not like, I think it's easy to look at crypto and think that it's just a scam, because a lot of it is actually, but like that's not to say that there isn't like 10% of the crypto community that's actually building the future, and that's where you want to be, right? So I think those would be probably like my top tips off the bat.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. And how can people join NUSIC, and how can people follow you?
Yeah, so we're on Twitter, right? So it's actually NUSIC DAO, one word, and you can go on a website, which is nusic.fm, and and that's got a link to our Discord as well. Okay,
well, check out the website nusic.fm, follow the Discord, check out the Twitter. And just to wrap it up, what is a personal motto that you live by, or a quote that inspires you?
That's a good one. The thing is, I've only got cheesy ones off the top of my head, right?
That's okay.
Like be the change that you want to see in the world.
The change, yes.
Yeah, I mean Gandhi, right? But obviously that's just such an important thing to live by, right? Like I think that we could all agree with that.
Yeah, of course. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being on our podcast and sharing all about NUSIC. And what you're doing for the music industry is incredible. I'm sure many people will be reaching out, following up, and it sounds like there's also an NFT launch coming out in the fall. So we'll all be looking for that. And excited to join the Festiverse. Thanks for joining us this week on season 1 of the DAO Factor. Follow the DAO Factor on Twitter and YouTube to watch videos of our podcast, where we'll be dropping a new video every week featuring key leaders of DAOs, community builders, and leaders in Web3.